Right, here are the 5 most disqualifying things J.D. Vance said in last night's vice presidential debate. We'll start with the most obvious one, but not the only one.
He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future.
Baseline. If you cannot say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, which he did by millions of votes, you're not qualified to be president or vice president. Disqualifying. But there's so much more.
One of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science.
This weird idea that maybe carbon emissions, no, there's no maybe and it's not weird. It's science and there is a consensus on it. Carbon emissions cause climate change, and we're going to be in huge trouble if we don't address it. He won't because he won't even admit it exists. Disqualifying.
First of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example,
so that's a lie. He has been caught on tape saying that he supports a national ban, and for him to use the phrase minimum national standard as if that is something different than a ban, when everyone in America knows at this point that that is exactly the same thing, is insulting. It's also deceptive, and guess what? It's disqualifying. Now here's Vance on firearms in schools.
But I unfortunately think that we have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers.
A candidate for the executive branch who has no better solution for firearm violence, especially in schools, but we need to make the windows stronger? Absolutely disqualifying. Also disqualifying, robbing our children of the freedom to live without fear of being shot. Disqualifying. Goodbye. And here's number 5.
But when Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care.
First of all, the ability to lie this glibly, to this slickly say the exact opposite of the truth and not crack a smile is a very frightening trait, and he illustrated it over and over and over in this debate. And this is really important to understand. Anyone who was sentient during Trump's first and hopefully only term in office knows that other than his preoccupation with separating families and tearing children away from their parents and also giving tax cuts to billionaires, his only other obsession was getting rid of the ACA. As activists, we fought it for 4 years straight. He tried to kill it with reconciliation. He tried to kill it with legislation. He tried to kill it with lawsuits. And he will come back and try to kill it immediately again. And he has actually come out and admitted that they will come for the pre-existing conditions clause, which means everyone who has a pre-existing condition will lose their health care under him. He should have the courage to tell the truth, but he doesn't. Disqualifying. My final reminder, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have track records that you can see. Unlike J.D. Vance, who's barely been in government, they have fought and passed policies to do something about climate change, to do something about gun violence, to do something about reproductive health care, to protect democracy, to protect our health care. Trump and Vance have worked their entire careers to dismantle all of that. If you're interested in people who want to work towards solutions, I think your choice is clear. If you love being lied to by the ultimate mansplainer, you met your guy last night.